In this video we're dealing with agricultural price supports, and what we have is the supply and demand for grain products in the United States. And as you notice, at this time we have an equilibrium of $1, and at that equilibrium quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied at 50,000 bushels. Now what's going to happen is they're asking what will happen if the government imposes a price support, or another word for that is a price floor, of $1.50 per bushel. So if you were to be able to go up and draw the line here at $1.50, since that would be a price floor, that means that no price below that is allowed to prevail in the market, which makes the $1 price illegal. So since the price then is $1.50, if you follow this over where it strikes your demand curve, that's going to be your quantity that is demanded, and that's going to be 40,000 bushels. And starting here, drawing the line over where it strikes the supply curve will give you your quantity that's being supplied, which is going to be 70,000 bushels. So if the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded, then we know that is a surplus in the market, and it's a surplus of the difference between the supply and demand curves. So 70,000 minus 40,000 gives us a surplus of 30,000 bushels. So if we go here, we have a surplus, and then it's going to be a surplus of the difference of the two, which is going to be 30,000 bushels. Alright, the next thing is, as you read down, it says that once you go in and, when you're looking at farm revenue, then initially if the price is $1, then farm revenue is going to be that $1 times 50,000 bushels, or initially your revenue will be $50,000. Alright, so this one, farm revenue, is going to start at $50,000. Now, what's going to happen is when the price goes up to $1.50, then that means at $1.50, suppliers are going to be willing and able to supply 70,000 bushels of this grain. So $1.50 times 70,000 is now going to give us revenue of $105,000. So according to this then, farm revenue is going to increase from the initial $50,000, $1 times 50,000, to $1.50 times 70,000, which is going to be $105,000. The next thing they ask you to do is to go in and shade in the area of how much tax revenue, or the burden on the taxpayers, is going to be if in fact the price of $1.50 is going to be imposed. So what we will do is we'll grab and hold down this tax burden, and we're going to drag it over until this red X is on the demand curve at $1.50. Then we're going to drag this over to where the other X hits the supply curve. So that's the difference between the supply and demand curves. And if we drag this all the way down to here, and then this one all the way down to the 70,000, then that will show us the actual area of tax burden that is going to be borne by the taxpayers for going in and installing this $1.50 price floor. Alright, so suppose the government wants to raise the price of grain to $1.50 per bushel. Instead of implementing a price support, the government can achieve this goal by restricting supply too. What they're asking is, the idea is we're going to take this supply curve and we're going to be able to shift it backwards, and we want to achieve the equilibrium at $1.50. So to do that, if you would notice, the supply curve would have to be back in this area, so supply would have to decrease. And we would have to decrease it all the way back to 40,000 bushels. Because you notice, if you were to go in and you had your supply curve that was coming right through this X right here, then where the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied would be here at 40,000 bushels. Alright, then it asks which of the following government policies would raise the price of grain products. So in other words, shift the supply curve back and to the left. So if you go in and set a limit on the number of acres that each farmer can use to produce grain products, that will definitely go in and shift the supply curve back to the left. If you set a limit on the amount of grain products that a farmer can sell in the market each year, that will also reduce the supply of grain. Now, if you go in and pay farmers to increase grain production, that would actually increase supply or shift that supply curve out and to the right. So that would be the wrong direction to go, and so you wouldn't check this one because, again, that would actually lower the price in the market.